Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Alyssa Ashe, and today is August 9th, 2018, which happens to be my birthday. So I wanted to thank everyone so much over here in the YouTube chat that has told me happy birthday so far, and the Twitter messages I've gotten as well. It has been a great day, and I appreciate all of your messages. So thank you guys so much. I see some of our regular members and sponsors in here: Mark Hannibal, JC, the Millers, Malik Gregerson, DM, and one of our moderators, Real Frank in Florida. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's going to be a fun night. And now for those of you who may not be as familiar with what I kind of do here on Right Side, I am researching as I am sharing this information with you guys as well. So if you see me looking over at this screen, I have, different articles pulled up just to share with you guys the most accurate information possible. And I have our different social media channels pulled up: Facebook, Twitter, and I have our XSplit program as well. So if I'm kind of all over the place, I wanted to just explain to you that's why. And so some fun topics tonight I'm going to get into in a second. But first, I wanted to remind you guys, and yes, swoosh for Trump, Space Force news will actually be first tonight because I know it's your favorite. But I wanted to remind you guys, if you have stories that you would like to share with me that, I may not have gotten to, might have missed during my sweep of the news today, please send them to me at Alyssa RSBN, and I will throw up that Twitter handle so that you are able to see it at Alyssa RSBN. And I don't know if you notice our new background. I really love it. It's really cool. It's called Blurred City, one that Joe brought over, and wanted to give a huge shout out to our CEO Joe and his brother Jacob Seals, who came over today just to test my equipment, make sure it was working well, and they fixed that annoying audio delay we had last night, so you will not have to worry about that tonight. So it's going to be a fun night. We're going to talk about the Space Force. We're going to talk about the Manafort trial. We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about the Pledge of Allegiance actually not being said in the morning anymore at one Atlanta school. So we've got a lot of different topics tonight, and I am going to just dive right into it. So first, starting with this Space Force, and this is from Routers. And I'm going to take a second real quick. Sorry about that. The reason I clicked, I'm going to take a second. I always have to take that intro out during the broadcast so it doesn't do that again when I switch back. But for now, we're going to leave the Twitter handle up so you know where you can contact me. So this is from Reuters, and it is titled "Going Where No President Has Gone Before. President Trump wants the Space Force by 2020. And I know a lot of you are really into the Space Force. You really support it. You're really excited about that possible sixth branch of the military. I saw you guys talking about it earlier, and one of our reporters, Tom O'Neill, said, "Sign me up." That would be so much fun. Who else wants to see Tom O'Neill in space? Let me know over in the chat room. So President Trump's administration today announced the ambitious plan to usher in the Space Force as the sixth branch of the military by 2020. But as you may expect, the proposal was actually scorned by opponents and may struggle to get a liftoff, play on words there, in a divided Congress. So President Trump has strongly championed the idea of creating a space-focused military service with the same stature as the Air Force and the Army, turning his dreams of a Space Force into a cry for supporters at political events. And his 2020 re-election campaign actually sent out a fundraising email on Thursday asking supporters to vote on their favorite Space Force logo for future President Trump campaign merchandise, offering a choice of 6. And Vice President Mike Pence, when he was addressing the Pentagon, actually described the Space Force as an idea whose time has come. And he also said, Pence said, America will always seek peace in space, as on the Earth. But history proves that peace only comes through strength. And in the realm of outer space, the United States Space Force will be that strength in the years ahead. And he added that Congress must now act to establish and fund the department. And President Trump tweeted, Space Force all the way. I want to see if he tweeted that out today so I can share it with you guys. Don't you love Trump tweets? I'm not going to show them all to you right now, but I like to have a time in every broadcast where we just go through President Trump's tweets of the day. And I just read them to you guys because it's a lot of fun. You never know what he's going to say. But I found this one super simple, but kind of great. And he just said at 9:03 a.m., Space Force all the way. So I will leave that up for a second as I keep going through this information. So the Space Force would actually be responsible for just a range of crucial space-based U.S. military capabilities, which includes everything from satellites enabling the global positioning system to sensors that help track missile launches. So critics view the creation of the Space Force as unnecessary and expensive, and they say it's even a vanity project that simply strips away work already being done effectively by services like the Air Force. And Democratic Senator Brian Schatz, who is on the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, said the Space Force was a dumb idea. Although Space Force won't happen, it's dangerous to have a leader who cannot be talked out of crazy ideas. And this is what Schatz said on Twitter. And some may even question if, the point of the Space Force is to militarize space. So Democratic Senator Bill Nelson has said that a move like this would rip the Air Force apart. And Senator Bernie Sanders said on Twitter that maybe, just maybe, the government should guarantee health care before we start spending billions to militarize outer space. However, other Pentagon leaders, including U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, once opposed the idea of a Space Force. They lined up on Thursday to offer their support. And a Pentagon report released on Thursday actually included interim steps toward the creation of such an organization. And a unified combatant command known as the U.S. Space Command would be formed by the end of 2018. And in a nod to the Air Force's current role, the Pentagon report recommended that the Space Command be led initially by the commander of Air Force Space Command, who would be dual-hatted. So one of the arguments in favor of devoting more resources to a Space Force or a Space Command is that American rivals like Russia and China appear increasingly ready to strike U.S. space-based capabilities in the event of conflict. And Mattis said it is becoming a contested war fighting domain, and we have to adapt to that reality. And now, as many of you may know, the U.S. is a member of the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, which bars the sanctioning of weapons of mass destruction in space and only allows for the use of the moon and other celestial bodies for peaceful purposes. Now, former astronaut and retired U.S. Navy Captain Mark Kelly on Thursday said that while Pence was right about the threats in outer space, the military was already handling them. And U.S. Navy Captain Mark Kelly also told MSNBC, there is a threat out there, but it's being handled by the U.S. Air Force today. Doesn't make sense to build a whole other level of bureaucracy bureaucracy, in an incredibly bureaucratic Department of Defense. So that's all I have for now for you guys on the Space Force. Want to hear your comments over here as well, to hear your thoughts about it and if you want it to happen or not. I see you guys, Real Frank in Florida and Swoosh for Trump, going back and forth with a funny comment. Real Frank said you can't hashtag walk away from the Space Force and nobody can hear you scream. And Swoosh for Trump said there's no deserting in Space Force. Okay. And Robert Justice said the Air Force does not want their funding affected. Too bad. And I'm going to check over on Facebook as well, just to make sure you guys don't have any more comments about the Space Force before I switch to our news story. Thank you, Stephanie and Thomas, for wishing me a happy birthday. Appreciate you guys. And Kevin Howard from Texas said Texas in the house. Awesome, Kevin. I used to live in Texas, in the Houston area. So I love seeing my fellow Texans watching. Okay, and let me pull it up real quick. I'm going to copy and paste this. I wanted to share with you guys a picture I got from Nate Skate, one of our loyal viewers and donors, and he just sent me another article I'll get to later in the stream. But I wanted to show you guys this picture of Nate Skate, who received his RSBN gear. You can see he's got this patriotic blanket with an eagle and the American flag on it. So shout out to Nate Skate, and thank you for being a loyal viewer. And then some right side stickers and a tote bag. And these fun Make America Great Again thumbs up signs. Thank you for posting this and sharing it with us, Nate Skate. Really appreciate you. You are a loyal viewer, donor. You help keep us on the air. And if you guys aren't sure, he actually won this by entering one of our contests that we had last week during one of those President Trump rallies. We always have contests where you guys are able to just enter online. You can enter initially without even donating by going to rsbnetwork.com/enter. So that's your first entry. And then after that, each $25, that you donate is an entry. And so that is a lot of fun. So there you are. Nate Skate, thank you so much for sharing. The British Patriot said, I want that blanket. You'll have to just enter our next contest then. And everyone is cheering you on, Nate Skate. Okay, switching back. And I see you guys commenting about Fox News commentator Tucker Carlson. Where is Tucker Carlson? Dan the Plumber said Tucker is on vacation. Thank you, Dan. I was wondering about that too, seeing different people fill in for him today. Okay, and wow, thank you so much. Our first donation of the night from Watchman 117, or Ronnie Mercer. He said, happy birthday, Alyssa. Have a safe trip home to SC. If you run into Lindsey Graham, please tell him rhinos are an endangered species. Thank you so much, Ronnie Mercer. Really appreciate you. Back when I actually interned for Fox Carolina, one of the news stations back at home, I actually had the opportunity to interview Lindsey Graham, and that was really cool. It was at a fun event where they were giving out hats, and Molina's Healthcare was actually giving out hats, scarves, and gloves to different children in need in the Boys and Girls Club. And of course, I had to ask him a completely unrelated political question, which kind of threw him off guard a little bit. I can't remember exactly what it was right now, but it was a pressing issue, and he did answer well. So it was a great opportunity to meet him. And now I'm going to switch over to our next couple stories tonight, but I'm going to keep this Twitter chat up just so. I'm going to keep this Twitter chat up so I can communicate with you guys and make sure I know when you're DMing me. For those of you who don't know, my Twitter handle is at Alyssa RSBN, and so that is how you will be able to communicate with me on Twitter. And of course, you can comment right here in the YouTube chat and on Facebook as well. I'm going back and forth trying to get a little bit of both. Okay, so I actually have two different articles and two different videos about Chicago and just the shootings that happened this week were out of control, ridiculous, heartbreaking, painful. And so first I want to share with you guys what President Trump said about it. I'm going to kind of break it down for you and then show you the video of his remarks. So he weighed in on the recent string of shootings in Chicago today, labeling this bloodshed that has left at least 11 people dead and 70 others injured as an absolute and total disaster. And the president was speaking at a prison reform roundtable at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, alongside governors and state attorney generals. The president laid much of the blame for the violence at the feet of the city's leadership. And President Trump said, "We must strengthen community bonds with law enforcement, including cities like Chicago, that have been an absolute and total disaster." We'll be talking about Chicago today because that is something that, in terms of our nation, nobody would believe it could be happening. And President Trump said, bad stuff happening, and probably, I guess you have to take from the leadership. It's called bad leadership. There's no reason in a million years that something like that should be happening in Chicago. And this is from Fox News. So Mayor Rahm Emanuel is battling calls for resignation amid the uptick in violence in Chicago, and hip-hop artist Chance the Rapper, longtime Emanuel critic Rev Livingston, and around 200 protesters who actually briefly shut down Chicago's Lakeshore Drive on August 2nd, all have recently called for Emanuel to step down. And before I get into this a little bit more with you guys, noticing that I'm really low in the shot, so I'm gonna tilt the camera, fix it for you guys real quick, but stay there, buckle your seatbelt, don't go anywhere, because I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully that's a little bit better for you. I was pretty low in the shot, kind of getting cut off by my lower thirds there. But now I'm back, and I'm going to pull up this YouTube chat again. Wow, we just received a $19.99 donation from Brondo, the Thirst Mutilator. What a name. Thank you so much, Brondo. Really appreciate you. And it doesn't look like there's a message attached there. But you are a regular donor, and thank you so much for that. Thank you for donating. Really, really appreciate your support. That will help us get to political rallies all around the country. President Trump is really just, ahead of himself on the campaign trail so that the GOP can keep the House and the Senate. Of course, as you know, that is their goal. And so it's going to be really fun just to travel with him and to be able to go to rallies all around the country. And pretty soon in the broadcast, I'll tell you more about how you can make that possible for us. But since we are in the middle of this story, I'm not going to get into the donation spiel quite yet. So a quote from Mayor Emanuel. He said, "Our souls are burdened. It is unacceptable to happen in any neighborhood of Chicago. We are a better city." And Thursday's meeting in New Jersey was largely with officials representing states that have implemented charges similar to those backed by the president, the White House said. And the administration has been pressing Congress to send Trump legislation that would provide the Bureau of Prisons with over $50 million over the next 5 years for drug treatment, education, and job skills programs. And President Trump said the administration has felt very, very strongly about helping former inmates find jobs. And President Trump said, "We want every child to grow up in a safe neighborhood, surrounded by families that are loving and helpful, and with a path to get a great education and a lifelong career." So I'm going to show you on the video of the statement the president made today on the Chicago shootings, and then I want to know what you guys think about his response as well. Let me pull it up before I switch over. And this is actually when he was holding a roundtable discussion on prison reform in Bedminster, New Jersey. And this is from Fox News 2.
I look forward to hearing from each of you about your experiences with prison reform and the lessons that we've learned. I know how, Matt, in particular, you have been working so hard. Phil, you've been working long and hard on it, harder than anyone would know. But I can tell you my administration feels very, very strongly about it. One of the single most important things we're doing is to help former inmates in creating jobs. We're creating so many jobs that former inmates for the first time are really getting a shot at it, because they weren't sought and now they are being sought because our unemployment rate is so low, historically low, 50 years. Now our economy is booming. Businesses are hiring and recruiting workers that were previously overlooked. They're being hired. It's a great feeling. It's a great thing that we've all accomplished. We've created a lot of jobs in the states, and I guess I've helped you a lot on a national basis. We've created 3.9 million more jobs since Election Day, so almost 4 million jobs, which is unthinkable. If I would have said that during the campaign, only a few of the people around this table would have believed me, but they would have. 3.9 million jobs since Election Day. That's pretty incredible. We've added more than 400,000 manufacturing jobs since the election. Manufacturing employment is now growing faster than at any time than it has in 3 decades, over 30 years. Through the Pledge of America's Workers, launched just last month, almost 5 million Americans will receive enhanced career training and opportunities. And I want to thank Ivanka Trump for having done an incredible job on that. She's really worked hard on it. It's something very important to her. I've really, and I've said it to a lot of people, Jared, I want to thank Jared for what's happening on prison reform, because you've really been leading it, something very close to your heart. And as I've said before, we hire Americans. We want to hire and treat our Americans fairly. For many years, jobs have been taken out of our country. We've lost our businesses. We've lost the hiring abilities that we had. Not anymore. Now those companies are coming back. They're coming roaring back. To your state, they're coming back faster than anyone thought even possible. Our first duty is to our citizens, including those who have taken the wrong path but are seeking redemption and a new beginning. That's people that have been in prison and they come out and they're having a hard time. They're not having such a hard time anymore. We passed the First Step Act through the House, and we're working very hard in the Senate to refine it and pass it into law. We think we'll be successful in that regard. The bill expands vocational educational programs to eligible federal inmates so that more of them can learn a trade. And that's what we're doing. We're teaching them trades. We're teaching them different things that they can put into good use and put into use to get jobs. I recently met with Chairman Grassley and other members of Congress to discuss the bill. We also agreed that we must be tough on crime, especially on criminals and trafficking of drugs and lots of other trafficking. We have a trafficking problem, including human trafficking. We're very, very tough on that, and that's going to remain tough or even tougher. We must strengthen community bonds with law enforcement, including cities like Chicago that have been an absolute and total disaster. We'll be talking about Chicago today because that is something that, in terms of our nation, nobody would believe it could be happening. They had 63 incidents last weekend and 12 deaths. That's bad stuff happening, and probably, I guess you have to take from the leadership. This is called bad leadership. There's no reason in a million years that something like that should be happening in Chicago. We want every child to grow up in a safe neighborhood surrounded by families that are loving and helpful and with a path to great education and a lifelong career.
So some great remarks by the president there. I hope you enjoyed seeing that video. I'm going to cut this off. Okay, and switching back over, and I want to hear about your thoughts as well. If you would just comment them in the chat room here, or you can share them with me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. That is how you can DM me. And I just shared it with you guys a little earlier when I was going through the information, but I really appreciate what he said. The president said, "We want every child to grow up in a safe neighborhood surrounded by families that are loving and helpful and with a path to great education and a lifelong career." So he really expressed how the violence in Chicago was not okay and that something really needs to be done. He wants to see safety throughout the whole city, of course, throughout America, and really just see a 360-degree turnaround in Chicago. And the Chicago police, another article from Fox News, are actually going to increase their police presence at large gatherings. So I have a video on that too, but first I'm going to break down the information with you guys and then show you that video. So today, Chicago police announced additional efforts to maintain a safer environment in large outdoor gatherings throughout the city, believing such settings are what sparked the uptick in gun violence last weekend that killed nearly a dozen people. And speaking to reporters, Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson, and that is what I'm going to show you in a minute, said that 20% of the 11 people who died due to gun violence last weekend were participating in a large outdoor unsanctioned gathering. And Johnson said that the Chicago Police Department has a responsibility to ensure any large gathering is safe and being conducted legally. And the department will deploy strategies for this upcoming weekend to such gatherings, including block parties, and that have seen success in other districts that did not recently experience violence. Johnson considered a large gathering to be at least 10 people. He said because of the rise of social media, events can grow quickly in size, unlike previous years that they've seen. And police have created emergency dispersal zones in 30 additional locations where historically large unsanctioned parties or gang gatherings occur. And law enforcement will also enforce existing laws to address places where large crowds gather unexpectedly. And the heightened police presence will be seen throughout Chicago's 5th, 6th, 10th, 11th, and 15th districts where the uptick in violence occurred. And Johnson also said, as police officers, we have an obligation to do everything in our power to keep our neighborhoods safe. And he said the strategies being utilized are designed to do just that. Johnson said he believes the increased violence at normal, typically nonviolent block parties took place because the events had some type of connection to a gang, and a rival gang most likely sought them out and decided to do what they did. And of gang members, the officer said, unfortunately, in a lot of instances, they don't care who they shoot. They just know that their rivals are over there and I'm going to shoot. That's what happened. And I'm going to show you guys the press conference that the Chicago police had today. And this is from Fox News as well.
Over the last several days, we've been dissecting as a department what occurred over last weekend. Our analysis shows us that what drove last weekend's violence were shootings tied to large, unsanctioned street parties. In fact, 20% of last weekend's shooting victims were participating in one of these large outdoor unsanctioned gatherings at the time of the shootings. We have a responsibility to ensure that any large gathering is safe and being conducted legally. And then some district commanders have employed strategies in dealing with these types of large unsanctioned gatherings successfully. I think that is part of the reason last weekend's violence didn't occur in every district in the city. As a result, we will be replicating some of these strategies in our more active districts during this upcoming weekend, based on best practices from our own district commanders. To prepare for this upcoming weekend, we have created emergency hotspot dispersal zones in 30 additional locations where historically large unsanctioned parties or gang gatherings occur. And this is to ensure the safety of the surrounding community. We will also place particular emphasis on ongoing enforcing existing loitering laws to address places where large crowds gather unexpectedly. Now, I know it's summer, and I want to ensure people that this isn't about block parties. I love them just as much as everybody else does. So I've ordered our community policing officers to conduct outreach to our existing block clubs and to known permitted block parties scheduled to take place over the upcoming weekend to ensure that they know we're here to help them. This outreach will focus on ensuring that they are aware of the block party rules and that they are doing everything they can to remain safe should they gather over the weekend and beyond. These strategies are on top of the plan I announced earlier this week, in which I ordered a series of strategic deployments aimed at keeping our communities safe this upcoming weekend and beyond.
Venezuela's taking.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that from Superintendent Johnson, saying that they're really just going to take more measures, have a larger police force out there just to make sure that this does not happen again. They're going to have 30 hot spots in the area and really just want to make sure that this does not happen again. And I will keep you guys updated on violence in Chicago. But now I want to switch gears a little bit about a deportation story. So this is from Reuters, that a federal judge today actually ordered an immigrant mother and daughter to be brought back to the United States after learning during a court hearing that the government had put them on a deportation flight to El Salvador. So the pair were among 12 plaintiffs in a lawsuit brought by the American Civil Liberties Union, challenging changes in asylum policies ordered by U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So Washington, D.C. District Court Judge Emmett Sullivan was hearing a request to stay the plaintiffs' deportations when the ACLU learned that two of them were already on a flight to Central America, the civil rights group said. And I will keep going through this story with you guys, but first, wanted to shout out, we just received a $10 donation from my dad, Gregory Ashe, and he said, happy birthday, number one. Thank you so much, Dad, for your donation. Really appreciate you, miss you, and hope you had a great day. So also, getting back into the story, an official from the Department of Homeland Security said in an emailed statement that the agency is complying with the court's order, and upon arrival in El Salvador, the plaintiffs did not disembark and are currently en route back to the United States. So during the hearing, the judge ordered a temporary stay on deporting 9 women and 3 children who filed the lawsuit, according to a court filing. And the lawsuit was filed on Tuesday in the District of Columbia by the ACLU. And it challenges a recent tightening on standards for seeking U.S. asylum, which makes it far more difficult for those fleeing domestic or gang violence to win the right to remain in the United States. So Sessions has led efforts by the Trump administration to crack down on illegal immigration, including the adoption of a zero-tolerance policy that briefly included separating immigrant parents from their children while they were in U.S. detention. And the family separation policy led to widespread criticism and was abandoned in June. And I received a few stories from some of you that I want to get into now. Okay, this one I can actually show you guys pictures of, and it's from a viewer that did not want to be named. And it's super recent. It was just updated 8 minutes ago. So I'm going to show you a picture as I go through it. And this is from businessinsider.com. NASA is about to touch a star for the first time. And then it says, here are the hellish conditions the Parker Solar Probe must survive. So you can see a picture of the concept there. And just some bullet points about it. So NASA's Parker Solar Probe is scheduled to launch Saturday, August 11th around 3:33 a.m. Eastern Time. And to touch the sun and study its weather, the $1.5 billion mission must survive hellish conditions. Temperatures will reach a searing 2,500 degrees. When the spacecraft zooms through the star's atmosphere at 430,000 miles per hour. And once the probe runs out of fuel, pretty much everything but its carbon heat shield will be destroyed. And it goes on to say, touching a star isn't easy. The sun is an enormous, searing, hot orb of plasma that generates a chaos of magnetic fields that can unleash deadly blasts of particles at a moment's notice. But that is precisely what NASA plans to do 24 times or more with its car-sized Parker Solar Probe. And the goal of the $1.5 billion mission is to edge within 4 million miles of the sun, which is close enough to study the star's mysterious atmosphere, solar wind, and other properties. So information gathered by the probe may help space weather forecasters better predict violent solar outbursts that can overwhelm electrical grids, harm satellites, disrupt electronics, and possibly lead to trillions of dollars worth of damage. And before I finish that up, wanted to shout out real quick. We got a couple donations. $10 from LJ. Thank you so much for that. Who said, happy birthday, Alyssa. Thank you so much. And $2 from the Red Raven, who said, Alyssa, love your work. #MAGA. Thank you so much, LJ and Red Raven. Really appreciate you guys. So the spacecraft is slated to launch from the Florida coast on Saturday at 3:33 a.m. Eastern Time, should weather cooperate, though NASA has through August 23rd to fire off its probe. And the PSP will reach the sun a few months after launch. And then we're going to kind of go through, and I'm going to tell you some of the brutal conditions and tremendous challenges NASA's probe will have to survive to pull off this mission. And this diagram here shows you the orbital path that NASA's PSP will have to fly to touch the sun. So you can see the launch here, sun here, and then the orbital path that the probe will have to fly. So the first hurdle the PSP actually needs to clear is the Earth itself. To make the trip, the probe will ride atop a Delta IV Heavy rocket, which is one of the most powerful operational launch vehicles on Earth, though not quite as powerful as SpaceX's new Falcon Heavy system. NASA chose the rocket because it's surprisingly hard to get to the sun, which is 93 million miles away. And Earth orbits the sun at a speed of 67,000 miles per hour, and so does anything launched off of the planet. To fall toward the sun, the PSP will have to slow down by 53,000 miles per hour, NASA said in a video about its mission. And I want to see if I can pull this video up for you guys.
NASA's Parker
Okay, hopefully you can hear it.
solar probe will soon fly closer to the sun than any spacecraft before it, about 4 million miles from the visible surface. But getting that close to the sun requires some fancy orbital mechanics. It takes 55 times more energy to go to the sun than it does to go to Mars. Why is it so hard to get to the sun? The answer is related to why Earth doesn't just fall straight into the sun, despite the strong gravitational attraction. Earth, and everything on it, is traveling very fast, about 67,000 miles per hour, in a direction that is basically always sideways relative to the sun. If you launch a rocket from Earth straight toward the sun, it won't lose that sideways speed, and so it will miss the sun. The only way to get the rocket to go right into the sun is to cancel all that sideways motion. Leave even a little bit, and it will miss the sun and enter a new orbit. To cancel Earth's motion, you have to launch the spacecraft backward as fast as Earth is hurtling forward. But 67,000 miles an hour is really fast. Spacecraft have to go upward at only 25,000 miles an hour to escape Earth. Getting to Mars only requires a bit more speed, 29,000 miles an hour. New Horizons, which NASA sent rushing out to Pluto, managed 36,000 miles per hour, or a little more than half what it would have to do to hit the sun instead. Since Parker Solar Probe plans to fly past the sun, it doesn't need to cancel out all of Earth's sideways speed, but it does need to remove 53,000 miles per hour of it. That's why it's using one of the most powerful rockets available, and additional gravity assists from Venus over a period of several years. In this case, rather than speeding up the spacecraft, as in a typical gravity assist, Venus slows down its sideways motion, so the spacecraft can get close to the sun. When it finally does make its closest approach to the sun, Parker Solar Probe will have lost much of its sideways speed, but gained a great deal of overall speed thanks to the sun's gravity. Parker Solar Probe will hurtle past the sun at 430,000 miles an hour, the very first human-made object to get that close.
Hope you enjoyed that graphic, the video with graphics, to help you understand it a little bit more. I know it definitely helped me. And so I'm going to switch back to the information. We're going to finish that up. So what we haven't talked about yet is the 3 different rocket stages. So one firing after the other runs out of fuel. So they're in the Delta IV Heavy will help considerably with boosting the Parker Space Probe toward that goal, but it's not enough to repeatedly fly the probe close to the sun. So instead, the rocket will shoot the probe on a path toward Venus, a planet it will fly past 7 times over 6 years. And the world's strongest gravitational field will help gradually absorb PSP's sideways motion imparted by Earth and direct it closer and closer to the sun. So the consequence of this orbital dance is that PSP will fall toward the sun faster and faster after each pass, and on its first orbit of the sun in November 2018, the probe will be some 15.4 million miles from the sun. And about 21 orbits later, in December 2024, it will sneak within 4 million miles of the sun, traveling at a speed of nearly 430,000 miles per hour relative to the star. And achieving such a velocity would make the PSP the fastest human object in space. It's nearly 120 miles per second, fast enough to fly from New York to Tokyo in less than a minute, and 3.3 times as fast as NASA's Juno spacecraft, which zips past Jupiter at speeds of 130,000 miles per hour. So during its journey, the PSP must withstand sunlight 3,000 times more powerful than occurs at Earth. And outside the spacecraft, in the outer fringes of the sun's corona or atmosphere, temperatures may reach 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to liquefy steel. And let's see, before I continue through this, I wanted to share with you guys a great donation and comment we got so much from Debo. Thank you so much, Debo, for your $20 donation. And he said, obviously the powers that be at RSBN know how to pick talent. You're doing a great job. Very proud of you. And whoever chose this background, set up the audio and switched to 60 frames per second is a technical genius. Bravo. Thank you so much, Debo. Really appreciate your donation and support. And that was actually Joe Seals, our CEO, that did all of the things above that you mentioned. Thank you very much, Debo. Really appreciate you. Okay, and so moving on. So the probe must also contend with a solar wind of charged high energy particles that can mess with electronics. And the key to protecting the probe, as well as its sensors for measuring the sun's magnetic fields and solar wind, is a special heat shield called the thermal protection system. So made of 4.5 inches of carbon foam sandwiched between two sheets of carbon composites, the 8 feet wide shield will absorb and deflect solar energy that might otherwise fry the probe. A water cooling system will also help prevent the spacecraft's solar panels from roasting and keep the spacecraft at a cozy 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So the PSP's mission is to crack two 60-year-old mysteries: why the sun has a solar wind at all, and how the corona, the star's outer atmosphere, can heat up to millions of degrees. Now, both factors are key to understanding what leads to potentially devastating solar storms. And Nicola Fox, who is a solar physicist at the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, said during a NASA brief back in 2017, that defies the laws of nature. It's like water rolling uphill. And she said, until you actually go there and touch the sun, you can't answer these questions. And the Parker Solar Probe launch will be available to watch. Will be available to watch this Saturday around 3 a.m. Eastern. If you want to stay up all night, wait for that, or wake up that early, we'll be on NASA TV. So don't know if you'll be able to record that. But the probe's mission will end many years from now, after it runs out of the propellant it needs to keep its heat shield pointed at the sun. And when that happens, the star's blistering heat will burn up to 90% of the spacecraft. And this is according to science writer Shannon Sterone, and she said this on Twitter, but not the heat shield itself. And the heat shield will then orbit the sun for millions of years. Okay, and I feel like I just got another space-related article. Maybe not. Wow. But I just received a great article from one of our other reporters, Tom O'Neill. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. And this was, want to get it right. This was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. One of the rallies we were actually able to attend last week. I'm going to switch the screen over so I can show you guys a picture as I go through it. And this is from Times Leader. Thank you, Tom, for finding this. So Bolus actually sued the arena and said that his free speech was violated during the President Trump rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania that we were just able to attend. And he is a trucking company owner and Trump supporter. He filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against Mohegan Sun Arena and the U.S. Secret Service, alleging his free speech was violated when he was forced to move trailers emblazoned with political slogans away from the main parking area. And I want to pull up a picture of his truck for you guys. Trying to make it a little bigger. And it says the Donald for President Trump will make America great again. Respect is earned, not demanded. Build the wall. Close the borders. Build the wall. Under this flag, Americans fought and died for America. Wanted to show this truck to you guys. I think there were at least 2 of them there. I remember seeing them and honestly being really impressed by them because I have not seen any decked out trucks like this yet at rallies. So the Luzerne County Convention Center Authority, who owns the arena, together with management firm SMG, also were named as defendants. And authority solicitor Joseph Persico said Wednesday he had not yet seen the suit and could not comment. Secret Service spokesman Jeffrey Adams told the Times Leader that as a matter of practice, the agency does not comment on pending litigation. And efforts to reach Bolus Wednesday afternoon for comment were not successful. According to the suit, which was filed Wednesday in U.S. District Court in Scranton, Bolus brought 3 tractor trailers to the arena at about 11:30 a.m., nearly 8 hours before President Trump was scheduled to appear at the arena in Wilkes-Barre Township. And Bolus, who is representing himself in the case, has been a vocal supporter of President Trump since before his election in 2016. And the trucks are decorated with messages promoting the president and other Republicans, including U.S. Representative Lou Barletta, whose U.S. Senate bid was the reason behind President Trump's visit. So in the suit, Bolus said he arrived early enough to secure parking near the entrance, which he understood was first come, first serve, and he estimated the trucks would have occupied 2.5 parking spaces. And he was not willing to pay for as many spaces as he took up. He also says he was not aware of any restrictions on types of vehicles allowed in the lot. And Bolus said he was greeted by Secret Service and venue security and informed that his trailers would need to be inspected by Secret Service canines, which he agreed to. And the inspection revealed the trailers to be empty, and the canines did not detect any contraband, drugs, weapons, illegal or prohibited items. And Bolus says he was told that regardless of their findings, he would have to park the trailers a distance away from the arena outside the main parking area, and I think that was where we saw them. So Bolus further alleges that there was no uniform policy regarding safety inspections of vehicles, and that he was treated differently than other rally attendees for impermissible reasons, including but not limited to his political views and expression of free speech. And Bolus claims that violated his right to equal protection under the 14th Amendment. And his suit seeks unspecified compensatory and punitive damages, interest, and cost. And there was a previous lawsuit. The arena has come under fire in the past for its handling of demonstrators. A federal judge earlier this year ruled that the authority and the Mohegan Sun's parent company do not have the right to block protesters from demonstrating outside the arena. And that ruling came in response to a suit by Lackawanna County animal rights activist Sylvie Pomisider and California nonprofit Last Chance for Animals. They claimed the defendants employed policies that restricted expressive activity on the property, restricting protesters to a secluded area surrounded by barricades away from foot traffic. And Pomikter, a native of Hanover Township, and the nonprofit said that violated their right to protest the treatment of animals at performances of the now defunct Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey Circus. And the activists claimed this was a violation of their First and 14th Amendment rights. And U.S. District Judge Robert D. Mariani sided with protesters, saying the authority and SMG are prohibited from drafting rules specifically meant to diminish the rights of protesters. And yes, Alex Freedom, this was at the Trump rally in Wilkes-Barre at the Mohegan Sun Arena, but not this one that I'm sharing with you guys right now. This is a previous lawsuit. And I see many of you commenting, if he paid for the spots, it'd be a totally different story. So, Alex, this is actually a previous lawsuit that I'm sharing with you guys. And it was back when Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey were still performing. So the activists claimed that this was a violation of their First and 14th Amendment rights, and U.S. District Judge Robert D. Mariani sided with the protesters, saying the authority and SMG are prohibited from drafting rules specifically meant to diminish the rights of protesters. And Bolus also alleges his First and 14th Amendment rights, but also argued that he was at the arena to express his support for President Trump and not for protest purposes. So the outspoken Lackawanna County businessman and his trucks are no stranger to headlines. In 2016, one of his distinctive pro-Trump trucks briefly backed up traffic after its undercarriage got stuck while making a turn onto the Firefighters Memorial Bridge in Pittston, and a police officer suspected the vehicle exceeded the bridge's 40,000-pound weight limit. And Bolus later demonstrated the empty vehicle weighed only 29,480 pounds, and the $708 citation was withdrawn. Okay, I was just fixing that little camera window for you guys up in the corner. I was getting out of the frame a little bit. Anyways, Tom, thank you so much for that article. And Jeff Hollifield messaged me and said, was the truck taking up parking? It was at first until they were instructed to park right outside the entrance. But honestly, I think that was a better view so that everyone could see them and he could get his messaging across rather than just being stuck in a parking lot. Okay, and I want to see what other stories you guys have sent me. Had some great ones come in tonight before I switch over to the other ones I have prepared for you. Okay, this is a really cool article Nate Skate sent my way. Thank you so much, from techcrunch.com. So we're going to get our little dosage of tech news. And let me just switch it over. I want to show you guys a picture. So Uber Air is actually going to take flight with help from UT Austin and U.S. Army Research Labs. And I want to show you guys a picture of that little aircraft. Really cool, really modern, like no plane I've seen before. And I'm kind of just going to go through this with you guys. So after 3 months of discussions, Uber Elevate has selected the University of Texas at Austin as its partner alongside the U.S. Army Research Laboratory to develop new rotor technology for vehicles that the company will use in its Uber Air flying taxi network. How cool is that? A flying taxi network. So the news is the latest step in Uber's plans to get demonstration flights off the ground in the megapolises of Dallas-Fort Worth, Los Angeles, and Dubai. And the ultimate goal is to have Uber Air services commercially available in those cities by 2023. So to achieve that, Uber has set up some rigorous specifications for its vehicle, and the traffic management system used to operate Uber Air, developed in conjunction with several aircraft manufacturers and the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So specifically for this vehicle, Uber is requiring a fully electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicle that has a cruising speed of 150 to 200 miles per hour, a cruising altitude of 1,000 to 2,000 feet, and a range of up to 60 miles for a single charge. Now, the company is not the only one racing to own the sky taxi space for urban transport. Chinese drone manufacturer. EHang, Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, Audi, and Airbus, and other smaller startup vendors are all trying to make flying vehicles. And EHang has already been touting manned test flights of its drone already. Uber, however, is trying to build out the service in the same way it did with car hailing so many years ago. And the company actually unveiled its thoughts on air travel and design a few months ago at its Elevate conference, but this is my first time hearing about it. What about you guys? And at UT, a research team led by Professor Jayant Sirohi, one of the country's experts on unmanned drone technology, VTOL aircraft, and fixed and rotary wing elasticity, will examine the efficacy of a new flying technology which uses two rotor systems stacked on top of one another and rotating in the same direction. And called co-rotating rotors, the new technology will be tested for its efficiency and noise signature, according to a statement from the university. So preliminary tests have shown the potential for these rotors to work better than other approaches while also improving versatility for an aircraft. There's a lot of things to be done, said Sirohi. We're not doing vehicles, we're doing a specific rotor system on one of the engineering common reference models that Uber has released. And the reference model is a benchmark for what the aircraft should do in field tests and eventually operations. And Sirohi said, we are pursuing these technologies to see what gaps are in and where we are today and where we need to be. Okay. So thank you, Nate Skate, for sharing that with us. And I want to give you guys one last visual of their creation. Looks like just a projected model right now. But you can see, if you really look closely, Uber on the side. Okay, and right now I'm looking at another article that I received from another viewer who did not want to be named. But this is really cool. This is from NBC4 New York. Mysterious floating package sparks bomb scare, turns out to be NASA experiment. So a mysterious package attached to a bright red parachute set off a bomb scare on Tuesday, but the white styrofoam box turned out to be a NASA experiment. And a group of solar panel employees spotted the box when it floated to the ground at a solar panel field affiliated with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection off of New Road in South Brunswick around noon. And when the employees approached the package, they discovered a handwritten message to the outside of it. It said, NASA Atmospheric Research Instrument, not a bomb. If found, please call. There was a number there. It was redacted. If this lands near the president, we at NASA wish him a great round of golf. And the employees were not reassured by the message or the strange noise that the package was making. And they reported the box to the police. They said, "We just had a package, I'm not making this up, parachute onto my site. It's a white styrofoam package, it's making a weird noise." And police dispatched officers and a bomb squad to the area, evacuated the site, and set up a perimeter, according to a South Brunswick detective. And Secret Service also investigated the package, according to the detective. So they soon learned that the box filled with wires was really part of a NASA experiment. And the box contained a weather balloon instrument that measures ozone, NASA said in a statement provided to News 4 New York. So the parachute launched from a Rutgers University-owned site as part of a Long Island Sound tropospheric ozone study. And in this instance, a summer student employee not affiliated with Rutgers added extra text in a misguided attempt to be lighthearted. And the student who appended the note was removed from the project, and we are taking steps to standardize the labeling on these scientific experiences, NASA added. And that's good. British Patriot said next time they should slap a NASA logo on the side. Definitely. Thank you, British Patriot. Okay. So a total of 6 weather balloons were launched on Sunday, police said. So far, 2 of the balloons have been recovered, including the one found Tuesday and another one in Reddington Township near President Donald Trump's Bedminster Golf Club. And police say anyone who finds one of the remaining 4 balloons has nothing to worry about. And they don't have any plans to charge the NASA employee or the intern with a crime for releasing the balloons. And before you leave Elysia site, just wanted to say thank you for your kind happy birthday message with all of those emojis. Really appreciate that. Okay, and I'm going to see what else you guys have sent me. Okay, nothing else new, so I'll keep going through what I have prepared for you guys. But I just wanted to say, if you would like to contact me, share a news story with me that I may not have seen today, I'll pull it up. Here's my Twitter at the bottom in the lower third, highlighted in white at Alyssa RSBN. And I wanted to thank all of you so far that have donated, that have helped support RSBN. We really appreciate every single one of you. So thankful for you guys. And we really, can't carry out the mission of RSBN without you. And our mission is to really just bring you guys into the rallies as if you are there yourself. We interview the crowds. We're there all day long, just showing you guys the crowds, showing you what the rally is really like. And we actually pan the crowds. We show the entire crowds, which is something that's really cool and that other mainstream media outlets don't take the time to do. So we pan the crowds. One of the reasons RSBN is famous, just for showing you thousands of people that are there that the mainstream media does not report. And so if you want to help us get to these rallies all around the country, or if you want to help keep my streams, my nightly news recaps, and other streams throughout the day on the air, you can do that by donating. It's really simple. And one way, if you're on YouTube, I know a couple of you have already figured this out tonight, you just hit that $ in the bottom left corner of the YouTube chat. That is the super chat, and you are able to donate there. It comes up in a bright color with your name. Super fun way to donate, and I'll read your comment out to the whole world as long as it is appropriate. So that's definitely a fun way to donate. And I'll show you guys the other ways. I'm going to switch it to over here on our website. Okay, and it looks like our moderator, JC, or members, JC, is sharing that address with you as well. That shows how you can mail a check to RSBN. And I'll explain that to you guys once we get to the website. So you go to rsbnetwork.com. And up at the top, this red bar you can see here, you click donate. And a few links will come up. The first one, I'm going to click this for you guys just so you can see how to go through it. You can pay with PayPal. And you just enter the amount, your debit or credit card information, billing address, and of course, contact information. And PayPal is really great because we get to keep 90% of that donation, whereas on YouTube, we are only keeping 70% of that donation. So also another way to donate, you know, maybe you've been watching RSBN for a while, you really like what you see here, you feel more invested, and you want to donate on a regular basis. You can do that with the second link here through patreon.com. And if you're going to Patreon separately from the website, it's patreon.com/RSBN. And you can actually become a patron and donate monthly. And you can receive fun things like pens, pencils, hats, you know, blankets, t-shirts, mugs, fun gear that says RSBN on it, so you will remember to watch us throughout the day. And you can see over here on the side all the different levels, starting at the entry level: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and the diamond level, double diamond, and the all access if you are giving $500 or more per month. And then that last way to donate is right here. You can send directly, you can mail a check directly to our P.O. box. And Randall Tom is in the house. He said, "Good evening, Alyssa." He is one of our front row Joes, and I just got to see him recently at the Ohio rally. Hey, Randall, how are you? Thank you for tuning in today. He actually had, I don't know if you guys saw it. You can see it on our Instagram at RSB Network. It is a flag with, it's President Trump's Make America Great Again flag. It's President Trump with the American flag behind him. Really awesome. And Randall Tom was actually, he had lost his voice. He had no voice at all because he had been just exciting the lines earlier in the day. But he was screaming, getting the crowds excited for RSBN, and he had tons of people sign it. So thank you so much for that, Randall Tom. Yes, and British Patriot said, "Randall Tom, hi, love the picture montage of the Ohio rally you uploaded." I need to go check that out over on Twitter. But anyways, thank you so much, Randall. We really appreciate you. And it was really fun hanging out with you for a while last week. And towards the end, we got to help him take the flags down that he had hung up all the way up on the flagpole. A Trump flag and an America flag both looked great. So anyways, you can see the address up here if you want to donate that way through a check in the mail. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. Okay, and switching gears a little bit, want to get to our next story. I actually have some world news for you guys, and this is some hard news as well. This is from Reuters. So, dozens killed, including children, on a bus in Yemen airstrikes. Saudi-led coalition airstrikes on Thursday killed dozens of people, including children traveling on a bus through a market in Yemen's Sada province, a Yemeni health official and the International Committee of the Red Cross said. So the Western-backed alliance fighting the Iranian-aligned Houthi group in Yemen said in a statement that the airstrikes targeted missile launchers used to attack the southern Saudi city of Jizan on Wednesday, killing a Yemeni civilian there. And it accused the Houthis of using children as human shields and said the strikes were carried out in accordance with international humanitarian law. And Houthi spokeswoman Mohammed Abdul Salam said the coalition showed clear disregard for civilian life as the attack had targeted a crowded public place in the city. So the ICRC said that a strike hit the bus driving children in Danyan Market in northern Sada. So a witness, Musa Abdullah, who was being treated in the hospital for wounds, told Reuters, "Our shops were open and shoppers were walking around as usual. All of those who died were resident children and shop owners." And the ICRC said on its Twitter account, that its medical team at the ICRC supported hospital in Sada received the bodies of 29 children, all under 15 years old, and the hospital also received 48 wounded people, among them 30 children. And that was the toll at just one hospital. So you can only imagine how bad it was. So Abdul Ghani Sari from the Sada Health Department told Reuters a bus carrying children was targeted today while they were coming from the school, resulting in 43 martyrs and almost 63 wounded. And it was really sad. White plastic body bags filled the floor of a room in the ICRC-supported hospital. Injured children, bloodied, bandaged, and screaming, lay on stretchers as doctors treated them, friends and relatives having carried some of them in their arms to be treated. And Johannes Brewer, who is actually head of the delegation for the ICRC in Yemen, said earlier in a Twitter post, scores killed, even more injured, most under the age of 10. And it was unclear how many of the dead in total were children and how many airstrikes were carried out in the area in northern Yemen near the border with Saudi Arabia. So So Saudi Arabia and Sunni Muslim allies intervened in Yemen's war in 2015 against the Houthis, who control the most populous areas of Yemen, including capital Sana'a, and drove the internationally recognized government into exile in 2014. And the United States and other Western powers provide arms and intelligence to the alliance, and human rights groups have criticized them over coalition airstrikes that have killed hundreds of civilians at hospitals, schools, and markets. And a U.S. military spokeswoman said U.S. forces were not involved in Thursday's airstrike. So Jan Egeland, who's head of the Norwegian Refugee Council, said in a Twitter post, grotesque, shameful, indigent, blatant disregard for rules of war when carrying innocent school children is fair game for attack. So the World Health Organization representative in Yemen, Nevio Zagaria, said it has deployed emergency supplies. And Zagaria said, "I am extremely saddened by what happened in Sana'a. The attack on civilians is not acceptable." And the alliance says it does not intentionally target civilians and has set up a committee to probe alleged mass casualty airstrikes, which has mostly cleared the coalition of any blame. And the coalition said in the Arabic language statement carried by SPA, today's attack in Sana'a was a legitimate military operation and was carried out in accordance with international humanitarian law. And coalition spokesman Turki Al-Maki later told Al Arabiya TV, targeting Saudis and residents in Saudi is a red line. And U.S. State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert said the United States was concerned about reports of the airstrikes and urged the Saudi-led coalition to conduct a thorough and transparent investigation. Separately, a White House National Security Council spokeswoman referred to conflicting reports in global media and said, "We are waiting for an official assessment of what actually happened." And when asked if the White House and the State Department were offering differing views, the spokeswoman said, "We have the same position." And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said on Thursday, condemned the airstrike, and called for an independent and prompt investigation. And fragments from the Houthi missile launched at Jizan International City killed one Yemeni citizen and wounded 11, Saudi state media said earlier on Thursday. And the Houthis have launched a series of missile strikes on the kingdom, including Riyadh, over the past year. And Sana'a, the main stronghold of the Houthis, has mainly come under airstrikes from the coalition as the mountainous province makes battle hard for pro-government ground troops. The Yemen war has killed more than 10,000 people, displaced more than 2 million, and driven the country to the verge of famine, according to the United Nations. And on a brighter note, I wanted to thank Running Out of Air for your $10 donation. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Running. And he said, after Alyssa Ashe finishes news recap, everyone please watch this. YouTube, search this. Lauren and Stefan destroy New Zealand TV host. Alyssa, RSBN is our beacon. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you so much, Running Out of Air. Really appreciate your donation. It'll help us to be able to go to the President Trump rallies coming up later this month. And it could even be sooner than that. We don't know when they're announced, when they will be announced. You know, the campaign only releases it few days before we're able to go, just for security reasons. So we don't know until we're, just able to go. And as you can imagine, it is very expensive, the lodging, the travel, the food, gas, and just getting paid for going. It's really expensive. And so thank you so much, Running, for your donation. That'll definitely be helpful to us. And let's see. I think I got another article from a viewer on Twitter, Nate Skate. I'm going to check that out. So this is from TechCrunch 2. Thank you, Nate Skate, for supplying our tech portion of the broadcast tonight. And it was published just 5 hours ago. So Facebook now deletes posts that financially endanger / trick people, which is a good thing. Thank you very much, Nate Skate, for a positive article. And it starts out by saying it's not just inciting violence, threats, and hate speech that will get Facebook to remove posts by you or your favorite or your least favorite troll. Endangering someone financially, not just physically, or tricking them to earn a profit are now also strictly prohibited. And Facebook today spelled out its policy with more clarity in hopes of establishing a transparent set of rules it can point to when it enforces a policy in the future. And this comes after cloudy rules led to waffling decisions and backlash as it dealt with and finally removed 4 pages associated with InfoWars host Alex Jones. And the company started by repeatedly stressing that it is not a government, likely to indicate that it doesn't have to abide by the same First Amendment rules. So the VP of Policy, Richard Allen, published today, "We do not, for example, allow content that could physically or financially endanger people, that intimidates people through hateful language, or that aims to profit by tricking people into using Facebook." And web searches show that this is the first time Facebook has used that language regarding financial attacks. And let's see. TechCrunch also says they reached out for comment about exactly how new Facebook considers this policy. So this is important because it means Facebook's policy encompasses threats of ruining someone's credit, calling for people to burglarize their homes, or blocking them from employment. And while not physical threats, these can do real-world damage to victims. And the position against trickery for profit gives Facebook a wide berth to fight against spammers and shady businesses making false claims about products. And the question will be how Facebook enforces this rule. Some would say most advertisements are designed to trick people in order for a business to earn profit. Facebook is more likely to shut down obvious gifts where businesses make impossible assertions about how their products can help people rather than just exaggerations about their quality or value. And the added clarity offered today highlights the breadth and particularly with which other platforms, notably Twitter, should lay out their rules about content moderation. While there have been long fears that transparency will allow bad actors to game the system by towing the line without going over it, the importance of social platforms to democracy necessitates that they operate with guidelines out in the open to deflect calls of biased enforcement. really interesting. Thank you so much, Natescape, for sharing that with us. Really appreciate you. Okay, and another update from one of our viewers on Twitter that does not want to be named. Thank you so much for sending this to me. So actually an update on those California wildfires. So the man described as a monster charged with arson in California's holy fire. And this is from USA Today. So California fire officials say more than 14,000 firefighters are battling massive fires across the state, including the Mendocino complex in Northern California, which is now being treated as the largest wildfire in state history. And the man suspected of igniting the holy fire in Southern California was charged today with 3 counts of felony arson, among other offenses. So Forrest Gordon Clark, 51, was arrested Tuesday on suspicion of setting off a blaze that has now burned more than 10,000 acres in Orange and Riverside counties, damaging or destroying at least 14 structures. And as of Thursday morning, the fire was just 5% contained. And I see your comment here. Real Frank in Florida. His name is Forrest Garden Clark. So in addition to arson, the Orange County District Attorney charged Clark with 2 felony counts of resisting arrest and with making criminal threats. And he faces a maximum sentence of life in prison, and bail has been set at $1 million. And according to the Orange County Register, Clark actually sent an email last week that allegedly said this place will burn. And the holy fire broke out Monday at the Holy Jim Canyon community where Clark lives and has forced some 20,000 people to evacuate. So Susan Schroeder, the spokeswoman for the Orange County District Attorney's Office, said, "We expect to bring him to justice for these terrible crimes." And California is immersed in what may go down as the worst fire season ever, with 18 current wildfires, including the Mendocino complex blaze that has burned more than 30,000 acres. And this is the largest fire in state history. And Dan the plumber said, again, what's his name? Forrest Gordon Clark is his name. So this morning, the Carr Fire near the northern city of Redding claimed its 8th victim early this morning when a heavy equipment mechanic crashed on Highway 99 in Tehama County. And this is according to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. So news reports depict Clark as a troubled person. And during a Wednesday news conference, Orange County Supervisor Todd Spitzer referred to him as a monster. And Spitzer said, who would go out with low humidity, high wind, and the highest heat temperatures this time of year and intentionally set the forest on fire? And in an ABC News video from Monday, Clark is seen confronting firefighters, then waving foreign money in front of the camera and saying somebody's been in my place and stolen. And then also Monday, a freelance photojournalist recorded a brief narrative with Clark in which he denied knowing who started the fire, saying he was asleep with earplugs on. And Clark said, I've been up for like 20 some odd days. I just woke up, dude. I just got burned. I woke up and all my stuff was on fire. And the Register reported Clark sent volunteer fire chief Mike Milligan threatening emails last week and had run-ins with neighbors. And the newspaper also said that a man with Clark's name and birth date was held against his will at a treatment center for mental illness in 1996. And Milligan was quoted saying, he has issues. I hope they get him. Wow, thank you so much, Twitter follower and viewer, for sharing that link with me. And I'm going to show you guys another interesting article from one of our regular viewers, Malik Gregerson. Thank you so much, Malik, for this. So a Kansas City man was actually told he couldn't vote while wearing a Make America Great Again hat. And this is from Fox News. So a Kansas City, Missouri voter was incorrectly told he couldn't cast a ballot while wearing his Make America Great Again hat on Tuesday, a county election official has said. And the unidentified man who was attempting to vote at the Northland Cathedral was asked by a poll worker to remove his hat. However, Tiffany Ellison, the Democratic director with the Clay County Election Board, said the hat should have been allowed since President Trump's iconic slogan didn't pertain to the primary elections. And Ellison said the man was upset and combative when he was asked to remove his hat. And a Twitter user said on social media that a slightly inebriated, belligerent man wearing a red hat argued with officials and started to film the voters after he was asked to take off his hat. And police were reportedly called to escort the man out of the polling place. And the man then called the Secretary of State's office to determine whether or not he was breaking any law, and the office confirmed he was not. The county election board eventually called him to let him know he could go back up here. He thanked us and apologized for his behavior. So according to Missouri state law, voters are not allowed to wear anything related to candidates, polling, or other electioneering issues within 25 feet of the polling building. Violating the law is a misdemeanor offense. And Ellison told the Kansas City Star the man planned to return to the church and vote later in the afternoon. Okay, thank you so much for that great article, Malik. Really appreciate you. And I want to switch back. Sorry for that little break there. I want to switch back to some of the other articles I have ready for you guys. Okay, so this is one that I actually introduced you guys at the very beginning of the stream. Super crazy. And this is from ajc.com. So an Atlanta school actually removing the Pledge of Allegiance from a morning ritual. And this came out. It was updated about an hour ago, but it came out about 6:30 tonight. So due to new developments, the story has continued to change since it was last reported. So the original story, we're going to start with that. And it looks like this one has been updated too. So an Atlanta charter school will not recite the Pledge of Allegiance as part of its morning meeting agenda. Atlanta Neighborhood Charter School on Grant Steele announced the change Tuesday in a statement from elementary campus president Laura Zelsky. So the decision was made in an effort to begin our day as a fully inclusive and connected community, Zelsky said. And over the past couple years, it has become increasingly obvious that more and more of our community were choosing to not stand and or recite the pledge. Students will be given the opportunity to say the pledge at another point during the school day, and they'll continue to be asked to stand to participate in the school's Wolf Pack chant each morning, according to the statement. So Zelsky said teachers and the K-5 leadership team will be working with students to create a school pledge that we can say together at morning meeting. And that pledge will focus on students' civic responsibility to their school, family, community, country, and our global society. Wow, so crazy that they will actually be removing the Pledge of Allegiance from the morning. I want to know what you guys think about this. I can see a lot of you don't like it naturally. British Patriot said, bring patriotism and Jesus back into school. That would be amazing, British Patriot. And I want to check Twitter as well. Make sure you guys don't have any comments about this story here on Twitter. That's good. JC said, then I guess I'll homeschool. Or just don't send your children to that school in Atlanta. Okay, I'm switching over just to see what else I have for you guys over on Facebook. Thank you so much, John A. Blue. He said, my main news source now for sure. Happy birthday, Alyssa. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate you. Okay, and I'm going to keep checking, pausing right now. I apologize, you can't even hear this, but everyone, we have a black screen right now on YouTube so they can't hear me and they can't see me. But hopefully some of them also have the Facebook stream pulled up. Okay. Waiting for that to come back. But I want to keep going so that everyone on Facebook can get the news as well. I think I have one more story left for you guys. An update on the Manafort trial. So today was day 8, and this is from Politico.com. So it was a heated exchange. The judge admitted fault, and the Airbnb enters the spotlight. Hey, we're back on YouTube. Wanted to give a shout out to you guys and tell you that I will be sharing my last story of the night with you guys right now, which is an update on the Manafort trial. So it was a heated exchange. The judge admitted fault. An Airbnb entered the spotlight. And this is from Politico.com. So the federal judge overseeing the Paul Manafort trial took another shot at special counsel Robert Mueller's team this afternoon, even after conceding earlier in the day that a criticism he leveled at prosecutors on Wednesday was erroneous. So the prosecution spent about 40 minutes Thursday afternoon questioning a bank employee about Manafort's unsuccessful effort to get a $5.5 million construction loan on a Brooklyn brownstone, only to have Judge T.S. Ellis III suggest that the issue was unworthy of such an extensive discussion at the trial. Notably, Ellis made the remark with the jury present. And the judge said, "You might want to spend time on a loan that was granted." The judge scoffed as prosecutor Uzo Azzoni sat down after concluding his questioning of Citizens Bank employee Taryn Rodriguez. So that prompted Azzoni, who had sat down, to jump back up. And the prosecutor said, "Your Honor, this is a charge count in the indictment." And Ellis shot back, "I know that." The tense exchange was just the latest example of Ellis making comments that could lead jurors to question the prosecution's case or its tactics in the tax and bank fraud trial that opened last week. And Ellis even acknowledged that one of his prior remarks was out of line, telling the jury early Thursday that he may well have been wrong the day before when he slammed the Mueller team for allowing an expert witness from the IRS to remain in the courtroom while other witnesses were testifying. Now, typically witnesses aren't supposed to hear anyone else's testimony in a trial, so they don't influence each other, but Mueller's team got Ellis's permission during the trial's opening arguments last week to have the IRS agent in the court on a regular basis. And Ellis told the court on Thursday morning, after instructing the jury to forget what he had said to the Mueller team about the IRS witness, "This robe doesn't make me anything other than human. You've got to put that aside." And Mueller's team has been frustrated by repeated slapdowns from Ellis during the Manafort trial, now in its 8th day. And before court started on Thursday morning, they filed a written motion to formally protest how they had been called out over the IRS witness. And the Mueller team asked Ellis to explain to the jury that the prosecution had done nothing wrong, and cited a transcript of the first day of the trial last week showing that prosecutor Uzo Azzoni specifically asked that witness to be excluded with exception of our expert and our FBI case agent. And the judge and the prosecutor went on to discuss Michael Welch by name and his expertise, and the judge unmistakably approved the exception. And the prosecutors complained in their motion. They said the court mistakenly faulted the government for permitting IRS revenue agent Michael Welch, the government's expert witness, to remain in the courtroom during the proceedings, when in fact on the first day of trial the court had expressly granted the government motion to do so. And they said the court's reprimand of government counsel suggested to the jury incorrectly that the government had acted improperly and in contravention of the court issues. This prejudice should be cured. So there is an update for you guys. So much going on with that Manafort trial. And let's see. Got a compliment from Great Riff is here over on YouTube. Thank you very much, Great Riff. Really appreciate that. And checking Facebook as well, just to make sure you guys don't have more questions or comments. Okay. And it looks like that is all I have for you tonight, all of the stories. So thank you so much for tuning in to my birthday nightly news recap, RSBN nightly news recap here, whether you are watching on our website, Periscope, Twitter, or YouTube or Facebook. Really appreciate each and every single one of you. And thank you for those that donated as well. That will help us to get to those political rallies. So I will be traveling home tomorrow, so I won't see you guys on the air, but I will be back next Monday. And I will have a special interview with a candidate next Monday that should be posted by Monday evening. Should be live Monday, actually. So stay tuned for that. And I am really excited to keep sharing the news with you guys next week. What an honor and blessing that I get to do what I do. Thank you guys so much. And once again, for Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Alyssa Ashe. Have a fantastic night.